Hi, Attorney Serrallo, Chad Clark. I just wanted to preempt my presentation with an apology for my low-tech version of my of my screen of the computer. This is about as good as it gets. I know how to do PowerPoints, and I'm not really sure how to record my PowerPoints with a video presentation, what have you. That's kind of beyond my skill set at this point of my life, so I apologize for that. But I'll do my best getting through the PowerPoint and kind of doing a voiceover, and you might be able to see me once in a while in the screen. But I just wanted to apologize ahead of time. And so for my presentation, I chose of the court system, the federal court system. I chose to give an overview, a brief overview of New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruen, who was the superintendent of the New York State Police. The decision just came out last year on our Second Amendment rights to carry, and I thought it was pretty interesting as a gun owner and pretty much a lifelong gun owner and a former law enforcement officer. I think it's important to be responsible in our gun ownership, and I just wanted to use this case to show how it traveled through our federal court system. So, just a brief overview of our Second Amendment was it was part of our 10 amendments to the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, which were ratified. The Bill of Rights was ratified in 1791, and what it really did was it guaranteed our civil rights and liberties to the individual, because we had been through so many, 150 years or so of English rule and kind of living in it as Englishmen in the colonies, and we got kind of tired of the king and England telling us what to do. So we really made it a point to that our sovereignty and our freedom was really big to us, and we didn't want the thumb of King George on us at the time. So these were really important amendments to the colonists and the new government of the United States in the Constitution. So the Second Amendment was, and I'll read it. It said that a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state and the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's kind of a mouthful, but at the same time, it was pretty simple. But for about 200 years, because guns weren't, there were muskets and single shot loads for a couple hundred years. There was no really need for the Supreme Court to get involved in gun ownership, and we were still developing the country and pioneering and moving west. So guns, were pretty necessary until modern times, where we kind of started saying, okay, well, what's responsible gun ownership, and the police, right around the same time that questioning of guns came out, was this around the time police came into existence in the country, where formal police forces and not just U.S. Marshals or local sheriffs were kind of roaming around, but more of enforcers of the law. But then in 2008, in Washington D.C. versus Heller case, the Supreme Court held that the Second Amendment protects an individual to the right of carrying a gun for, at the minimum, home defense. So you were allowed to have a gun in your house without needing necessarily permits or what have you. But then again in 2010, which this is a long time after the Constitution, but the court determined that the right to bear arms is a fundamental right. There's a lot of argument about whether you need to be in a militia, or only the army should carry guns or the police should carry guns. But the Supreme Court said no, it's a fundamental right through our constitutional rights in the Second Amendment that you shall, and they interpreted this law that the government can't tell you can't carry a gun. It was based on different states saying, okay, well, then you can't carry a gun in, this park or in this building or what have you. So they could kind of restrict it a little more through the state, but the Supreme Court of the U.S. said that no, you have the right to carry a gun. That's your fundamental right as a U.S. citizen. And then in 2016, Catano versus Massachusetts, the U.S. Supreme Court said that all modern firearms are considered arms in the definition, because there was really no definition of arms up until that point. So that included modern arms, modern rifles with magazines and what have you. And then, so the facts of the case for Bruen were two guys, Brandon Koch and Robert Nash. They were both New York residents. They applied for unrestricted licenses to carry a handgun in public based on their assertion that they just want to carry for self-defense. And then I believe Brandon Koch also said, I like to carry it when I'm camping or for, to defend myself from animals and what have you. This was a northern New York state case, so he did a lot of he was an outdoorsman, and he wanted to carry based on just protection in general, not just from people but from animals and what have you. But however, the state of New York at the time made it a crime to possess a firearm without a license, whether inside or outside the home. So you need a license even to carry in your own house, and if you wanted to carry outside your home, you had to have an unrestricted license to carry a concealed pistol or revolver. This didn't include shotguns or rifles. And you had to prove that you had proper cause, which meant you had to have a fear of your life, or you had to be in fear, a restraining order, or some type of instance or ongoing instance that you need to carry, or for if you were security or what have you, you need to carry on a regular basis to defend yourself or others. And it was a pretty stringent process. You couldn't just carry because you said, just in case something happens, there's a robbery at the store and I want to defend myself or a third person. You couldn't just carry for that reason. New York State denied both the applications by Koch and Nash for their unrestricted licenses because they didn't satisfy the proper cause requirement, which I just described. So what they did was they went to the courts, went to the federal district court in northern New York. I believe there's four district courts in New York, federal district courts. So they went, not the, like it says at the top, not like a basketball court or a cricket court or a croquet court, but which sounds more fun than a court that I've been in many times. It's not as enjoyable. But so they took it to the U.S. District Court for Northern New York, and in their suit they said, as the plaintiffs, who the plaintiffs bring the suit forward, they alleged that the state of New York violated their Second and 14th Amendment rights by denying their unrestricted license applications because they couldn't demonstrate a unique need for self-defense, as I spoke about earlier. So just a brief aside on the district